Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every generation when ordinary effort is no longer enough. A moment when repetition loses its power. A moment when doing what has already been done can no longer carry you where you are called to go. This is that moment. This is that season. This is the hour for what has never been done before. You cannot build a new future with old thinking. You cannot step into unprecedented territory while clinging to familiar patterns. What brought you here will not take you there. The comfort zone may feel safe. Safety has never produced destiny. Growth demands courage, and destiny demands disruption. Every breakthrough in history was first labeled impossible. Walls fell, people laughed. Before seas parted, people doubted. Before giants fell, fear spoke louder than faith. But history never remembers the doubters. It remembers the ones who dared to move when no blueprint existed. If you are waiting for permission, you will wait forever. If you are waiting for applause, you will die unfinished. Some assignments are not announced, they are activated. Some doors do not open with keys, they open with obedience. You are being called to build something that does not yet exist, to walk a road that has not yet been mapped, to speak a word that has not yet been heard. What frightens you is not failure, it is uniqueness. It is the realization that no one before you has carried what you carry, seen what you see, or survived what you survived. That pain was not meant to break you. It was meant to qualify you. That pressure was not meant to crush you. It was meant to shape you. Every generation needs pioneers, not imitators. Copying may bring applause, but originality brings legacy. You were not created to repeat history. You were created to interrupt it. Does not release new wine into old containers. Something in you must stretch. Something in you must break. Something in you must be rebuilt. When you step into the unfamiliar, fear will speak. Doubt will shout. Critics will gather. But resistance is confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. Opposition does not mean you are wrong. It often means you are early. Do not despise small beginnings. Everything unprecedented starts unnoticed. Before it becomes undeniable, it is invisible. Before it becomes celebrated, it is questioned. Before it becomes powerful, it is lonely. There will be seasons when you walk alone, not because you are abandoned, because your assignment is rare. Everyone cannot go where you are going. Everyone cannot understand what you are building. Some people are assigned to applaud the result, not accompany the process. You are not crazy for dreaming big. You are not wrong for thinking differently. You are not arrogant for believing more is possible. You are responding to a call that cannot be explained, only obeyed. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to settle. This is not the time to play safe. History is written by those who dared to attempt what had never been done before. Old methods cannot produce new destinies. This truth confronts us at the very edge of growth, where comfort ends and transformation begins. Every season of life demands a response, and when the season changes, the strategy must change with it. What once worked, what once felt effective, what once delivered results may now be the very thing limiting your progress. Destiny is never reached by accident. It is approached through intentional evolution. If you insist on using yesterday's tools to solve today's challenges, you will remain trapped in cycles instead of stepping into calling. Many people mistake familiarity for faithfulness. They hold on to old habits, old mindsets, old routines, not because they are productive, but because they are known. Familiarity feels safe, and safety feels responsible. Destiny has never been interested in what feels safe. Destiny responds to obedience, courage, and willingness. Growth often begins with discomfort, because discomfort is the signal that something new is being formed within you. When your methods no longer stretch you, no longer serve you, old methods are rooted in old thinking. They are shaped by past environments, previous limitations, and former versions of yourself. You are not who you used to be. You have survived storms that reshaped your perspective. You have endured losses that sharpened your wisdom. You have encountered realities that expanded your vision. To continue operating from outdated methods is to deny the evolution that life has already demanded of you. Destiny requires alignment, and alignment begins in the mind. There is a danger in success when it becomes a shrine instead of a stepping stone. What worked once can become an idol if you refuse to move beyond it. Past victories can quietly turn into present ceilings. You begin protecting methods instead of pursuing purpose. You begin defending systems instead of following direction. And without realizing it, you become loyal to the past while destiny is calling you forward. Honor where you came from, but do not live there. Every new level requires new thinking, new discipline, and new courage. You cannot pray your way into a future you are unwilling to prepare for. Preparation is the language of belief. You truly believe something new is possible, your actions shift, your routines change, your priorities realign. You stop repeating what feels comfortable and start building what feels necessary. Destiny does not reward repetition, it responds to readiness. Old methods often fail because they were designed for survival, not expansion. There are seasons when survival is enough, when holding on is an act of strength. But there comes a moment when survival must give way to vision. What once kept you alive may now be keeping you small. The strategies that protected you in your past may restrict you in your future. Growth demands that you release what no longer fits the size of your calling. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. It says, "This is how we've always done it," or "At least this works," or "Don't risk losing what you have." But destiny speaks a different language. Destiny asks, what are you becoming? It challenges you to trade certainty for possibility, control for trust, and routine for revelation. Yeah, you cannot experience transformation while negotiating with fear. New destinies require bold decisions, not cautious excuses. Change is not betrayal of the past, it is respect for the future. Letting go of old methods does not mean they were wrong. It means they have completed their assignment. Seasons end not because they failed, but because they fulfilled their purpose. Wisdom is knowing when to release what once served you so your hands are free to receive what is next. You cannot hold on to old tools and expect to build something new. New destinies often demand new skills. This means learning again, being a beginner again, sometimes being uncomfortable again. Pride resists this process because pride prefers mastery over growth. But humility opens the door to expansion. When you are willing to learn, you position yourself for increase. When you refuse to adapt, you choose stagnation. Destiny is attracted to teachable hearts and flexible minds. The greatest transformations happen when people outgrow their old systems. Systems are useful until they become cages. Routines are powerful until they become prisons. Structure is helpful until it suffocates creativity. Destiny does not destroy structure. It renews it. It reshapes your systems to match your future instead of your past. This requires honest evaluation and courageous adjustment. If you want a destiny that looks different, you must live differently. You must think differently, speak differently, and act differently. New outcomes demand new inputs. You cannot sow yesterday's seeds and expect tomorrow's harvest. What you repeatedly do is shaping what you are repeatedly becoming. When your daily actions align with your future vision, destiny begins to unfold naturally. There will always be resistance when you abandon old methods. People who benefited from your old version may struggle to understand your growth. Systems built around your former limitations may resist your expansion. But resistance is not a sign to retreat. It is confirmation that movement is happening. You are not meant to fit where you have outgrown. Old methods cannot carry new oil. New destinies require new capacity. Capacity grows when you stretch, when you risk, when you step beyond what feels manageable. The pressure you feel is not meant to crush you. It is meant to expand you. Expansion always feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. Destiny is not found by clinging to what was. It is discovered by stepping into what is becoming. When you release old methods, you make room for fresh vision, renewed strength, and unexpected opportunities. You stop recycling the past and start creating the future. This is the moment to evaluate your methods honestly. Ask yourself whether they are producing growth or merely maintaining familiarity. Ask whether they are aligned with who you are becoming or who you used to be. Destiny is calling for evolution, not repetition. Old methods cannot produce new destinies because destiny demands movement, and movement always requires change. When you choose to change, you choose to grow. When you choose to grow, you choose to step into a future that has never existed before. Comfort zones delay purpose. They do not destroy it outright, but they postpone it quietly, patiently, and often without resistance. The danger of a comfort zone is not that it is painful, but that it is pleasant. It feels familiar, predictable, and safe. It offers routines that require little effort and choices that demand little courage. Yet purpose has never lived in places of ease. Purpose waits beyond the borders of what feels manageable, calling us into spaces that require faith, growth, and risk. Comfort zone is built from past experiences. It forms when you learn how to survive a season and then decide never to leave the methods that kept you safe. This seems wise. Stability is necessary for healing, and rest is essential for renewal. But when rest turns into residence, stagnation begins. What was meant to be a pause becomes a permanent position. Purpose does not announce its departure. It simply waits while you remain still. Many people confuse comfort with peace. Peace is the alignment of your life with your calling, even when the journey is difficult. Comfort is the absence of challenge, even when the soul is restless. You can be comfortable and still deeply unfulfilled. You can have stability and still lack significance. Purpose speaks through discomfort because discomfort demands attention. It forces you to confront the question of whether you are living to preserve ease or to fulfill calling. Comfort zones are reinforced by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, and fear of the unknown all contribute to staying where you are. The comfort zone whispers that it is better to stay safe than to risk disappointment. But safety without growth becomes a slow erosion of potential. Purpose requires exposure. It requires you to step into situations where outcomes are not guaranteed and where confidence must be built through action rather than certainty. Growth always begins with discomfort because growth is a stretching process. Muscles do not strengthen without resistance. Purpose does not mature without pressure. The discomfort you avoid may be the very environment your calling needs to develop said strength. Comfort zones protect you from pain, but they also protect you from progress. They insulate you from failure, but they also insulate you from success. One of the most subtle dangers of comfort is repetition. When days begin to look the same and decisions require no thought, life becomes predictable. Predictability creates efficiency, but it can also create complacency. You begin to live on autopilot, responding instead of creating, maintaining instead of building. Purpose is creative by nature. It demands intentional choices and deliberate movement. Comfort zones thrive on default settings. Purpose requires design. Comfort zones also limit vision. When you stay in the same environment, surrounded by the same ideas and expectations, your perception of what is possible shrinks. You begin to measure your potential by your surroundings rather than by your calling. Purpose expands when you encounter new perspectives, new challenges, and new responsibilities. Exposure broadens vision, and vision fuels purpose. Many people delay purpose because comfort provides immediate rewards. It offers instant relief from stress and instant reassurance of control. Purpose, the other hand, often requires delayed gratification. It asks you to sacrifice short-term ease for long-term impact. It asks you to invest in something that may not pay off immediately. The comfort zone says, stay where it's easy. Purpose says, move where it matters. There is also a social dimension to comfort. People around you may prefer the version of you that does not change. Growth disrupts dynamics. When you step out of your comfort zone, you challenge unspoken agreements and expectations. Some will resist your evolution because it exposes their stagnation. Purpose is not meant to be negotiated with approval. It is meant to be pursued with conviction. Comfort zones delay purpose by dulling urgency. Life feels manageable. There is no pressing reason to change. But purpose often emerges in moments of urgency. Something inside you refuses to remain silent. That inner tension, that dissatisfaction, that sense of there must be more is not ingratitude. It is alignment trying to happen. Ignoring it in the name of comfort leads to regret. True fulfillment is rarely found in ease. It is found in progress. There is a deep satisfaction that comes from doing what stretches you, even when it exhausts you. Purpose energizes even when the process is difficult because it aligns effort with meaning. Comfort may preserve energy, but purpose gives energy direction. Leaving the comfort zone does not mean abandoning wisdom or stability. It means redefining them. Wisdom includes courage. Stability includes growth. Purpose does not require reckless decisions, but it does require intentional risk. Risk is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that growth is more important than comfort. Comfort zones delay purpose because they keep you focused on maintenance rather than mission. You become skilled at sustaining what exists instead of creating what could be. Purpose calls you to build, to pioneer, to explore territory that has not yet been claimed. That calling cannot be fulfilled from a place of stagnation. Every meaningful transition in life begins with discomfort. New skills feel awkward before they feel natural. New responsibilities feel heavy before they feel empowering. New identities feel unfamiliar before they feel authentic. If you retreat every time discomfort appears, you will retreat from purpose itself. The choice is not between comfort and chaos. The choice is between comfort and growth. Growth will challenge you, but it will also expand you. Purpose does not require perfection, it requires movement. Each step outside the comfort zone strengthens confidence and clarifies direction. Comfort zones delay purpose, but they do not eliminate it. Purpose is patient. It will wait until you are ready to move. But time spent waiting is time not spent becoming. The moment you choose growth over ease, purpose responds. Step beyond what feels safe, not recklessly but intentionally. Let discomfort teach you rather than frighten you. Allow challenge to refine you rather than stop you. Purpose is not found where you are most comfortable. It is found where you are most alive. That is one of the most unsettling and defining truths about purpose. When you are called to do something that has never been done before, clarity does not arrive in complete diagrams, detailed instructions, or guaranteed outcomes. Instead, you are given a burden of vision, inner conviction that refuses to leave you alone. The absence of a blueprint is not a mistake. It is evidence of originality. If there were a map, you were following, not pioneering. Human nature craves structure. We want step-by-step guidance, visible markers of progress, and reassurance that we are doing things the right way. But unprecedented assignments are not about replication. They are about revelation. They demand trust over certainty and obedience over explanation. You are not meant to see the entire path at once, because seeing everything would remove the necessity of faith, growth, dependence on what is guiding you forward. When you step into an assignment without a blueprint, fear often rises immediately. The mind asks, what if I fail? What if I am wrong? What if I am not enough? These questions are natural, but they are not meant to stop you. They are meant to stretch you. It is the discomfort you feel is the friction between who you have been and who you are becoming. Growth lives in that tension. Blueprints are created after completion, not before initiation. History only writes instructions once someone has finished the work. Before that, there is only experimentation, courage, and perseverance. Every innovation, every movement, every transformation that changed lives began as an uncertain attempt. Those who went first did not have guarantees, they had conviction. They did not have certainty, they had commitment. You will not feel fully prepared when you start because preparation is often produced through action. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most subtle forms of delay. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. You decide to move, and in the moving, you grow into the capacity the assignment requires. Without a blueprint, comparison becomes meaningless. You cannot measure your progress against someone else's path because no one else is walking your road. This can feel isolating, but it is also liberating. You are not late, and you are not behind. You are simply early. Pioneers are often misunderstood because they operate without reference points. But misunderstanding is part of the cost of originality. The lack of a blueprint forces you to listen more carefully. When external instructions are absent, internal clarity becomes essential. You learn to discern timing, direction, and boundaries through reflection, intuition, and discernment. This deepens maturity. Instead of leaning on systems, you learn to lean on wisdom. Instead of copying methods, you develop proof of concept through lived experience. When there is no clear path, shortcuts become tempting. Doubt whispers that compromise would make things easier. Integrity matters more when the road is unmarked. Who you are when no one can tell you what to do determines the sustainability of what you are building. Success achieved without integrity collapses under its own weight. There will be moments when you wish for instructions, moments when the uncertainty feels overwhelming, moments when you question whether the assignment is worth the cost. These moments do not mean you are failing, mean you are engaged in something real. Easy paths rarely lead to meaningful destinations. Resistance is often confirmation that you are moving in unexplored territory. Without a blueprint, you must remain flexible, willing to adjust, refine, pivot when necessary. Rigidity breaks under uncertainty, but flexibility grows stronger. You learn that mistakes are not the opposite of success. They are part of the process. Each correction sharpens your understanding and strengthens your resolve. The absence of a blueprint also ensures humility. You cannot rely on formulas or past achievements. You must remain teachable, observant, and responsive. Pride demands certainty, but humility embraces learning. When you accept that you do not know everything, you create space for insight, innovation, and collaboration. People may question your direction because they cannot see what you see. They may ask for evidence, validation, or precedent. Unprecedented assignments cannot be validated in advance. Their proof comes later. You are not called to convince everyone. You are called to be faithful to the vision you carry. Results will speak in time. As you move forward, pieces of the path will reveal themselves incrementally. Clarity often comes just in time, not ahead of time. You are given what you need for the next step, not the entire journey. This teaches dependence on process rather than obsession with outcome. When you focus on the next step with excellence, momentum builds naturally. Unprecedented assignments shape leaders differently. They produce resilience, creativity, and depth. Those who navigate uncertainty develop strength that cannot be taught in controlled environments. They become comfortable with ambiguity and confident in decision-making. This kind of leadership is forged, not taught. In the end, absence of a blueprint becomes your advantage. It frees you from limitation, tradition, and expectation. You are not constrained by how it has always been done. You are free to discover what works, what evolves, and what endures. When the assignment is complete, others will follow the path you created. Unprecedented assignments come without blueprints because they are meant to be authored, not copied. You are not behind because you lack instructions. You are ahead because you are creating them. Move forward with courage, patience, and faith. The path will appear as you walk it. Fear is evidence of unfamiliar territory, not failure. It is not a verdict on your ability, your worth, or your destiny. It is a signal that you are on the edge of growth, on the threshold of transformation, in the presence of something that requires courage you have not yet fully exercised. Fear is not the enemy of progress. Misunderstanding fear as failure is. Fear is an indicator that you are stepping beyond what has been comfortable, beyond what has been predictable, and beyond what has been convenient. It is the body, mind, and spirit's way of signaling that you are entering uncharted territory, the kind of territory where potential lives. When fear arises, natural reaction is to shrink, to retreat, to justify staying within boundaries that feel safe. But retreat never produces the life you are called to live. Safety is temporary, comfort is limiting, and familiarity can become a cage. Fear is the signal that you are moving into a space that your past experiences cannot fully guide you through. It is unfamiliar territory. Unfamiliar territory requires trust. Trust in your vision, trust in your preparation, and trust in the purpose that has led you to this moment. Fear tells you that the stakes are higher. It tells you that growth is imminent. It tells you that you are approaching a level of life you have not yet mastered. If you misinterpret fear as failure, you give power to paralysis instead of progress. You stop in your tracks at the very moment when movement is required. You forget that fear is natural, that it is universal, and that it is temporary. Fear is not a stop sign, it is a caution light. It says, pay attention, proceed with care, move forward with awareness. It does not say, you cannot succeed. Unfamiliar territory is always accompanied by uncertainty. There will be questions that cannot be answered, risks that cannot be measured, and outcomes that cannot be predicted. Your mind may scream for guarantees. The reality is that no meaningful journey ever comes with a guarantee. Every person who achieved something extraordinary faced moments when the next step was invisible, when the next move required faith more than certainty. Fear appears at these junctions because the unknown challenges the habitual safety of your thinking. It is the natural companion of breakthrough. Fear also exposes hidden potential. The intensity of fear often corresponds to the magnitude of opportunity. The more you are afraid, the more you are about to stretch, evolve, and expand. It is in the spaces where fear is present that you discover new strength, new resilience, and new capacity. To avoid fear is to avoid growth. To move through fear is to step into a higher version of yourself. Those who interpret fear as failure never experience the fullness of what fear is trying to teach. Those who interpret fear as evidence of unfamiliar territory discover that fear is actually a guide, not a barrier. When fear surfaces, it demands action, not avoidance. It challenges you to lean into discomfort rather than resist it. Every step you take in the presence of fear develops your courage muscles, strengthens your resolve, and builds your confidence in ways that comfort never could. Fear is the training ground for faith. It tests your commitment to purpose and your willingness to pursue calling even when the outcome is uncertain. Those who wait until fear disappears will wait indefinitely. Fear never disappears entirely because meaningful growth never occurs in fully familiar, fully safe spaces. Unfamiliar territory requires new skills, new thinking, and new perspectives. Fear arises because the mind recognizes that old methods may not work here. What served you in the past may not be sufficient in this season. Fear highlights the gap between your current capacity and the demands of your next level. It is not a message of inadequacy, but a message of preparation. It signals that you need to stretch, adapt, and innovate. Every step taken in fear teaches you mastery, resilience, and creativity. It reminds you that the journey itself is a teacher, and the lessons learned in uncertainty are invaluable. Fear is also a marker of authenticity. If your goals, your calling, and your vision do not provoke fear, they may not be ambitious enough. Great things always feel risky before they become real. Pioneers, innovators, leaders experience fear because they step into territories no one else has mapped. Fear is a confirmation that you are venturing into places where impact, significance, and transformation reside. It is not a reflection of inadequacy. It is proof that you are moving beyond the familiar into the extraordinary. When you embrace fear as evidence of unfamiliar territory, you change your perspective. Fear is no longer a signal to stop, it becomes a signal to proceed with purpose. You learn to view fear as a companion, not a foe. It keeps you vigilant, attentive, and focused. It sharpens your senses, encourages preparation, and reminds you to rely on more than just past experience. Fear teaches humility, dependence, and perseverance. It becomes a tool, not a threat, when interpreted correctly. In unfamiliar territory, fear also develops patience. Progress may be slower because the path is unclear, obstacles may be unexpected, and results may be delayed. But fear teaches endurance, teaches that forward movement is sometimes invisible, that steps may feel small, and that consistency is more important than immediate gratification. Those who interpret fear as failure give up at the first sign of struggle. Those who interpret fear as evidence of unfamiliar territory continue, knowing that every step taken in faith builds momentum, even when the destination cannot yet be seen. Fear also separates the willing from the hesitant. Those who understand that fear is a natural part of stepping into new territory take action despite it. Those who equate fear with failure hesitate, procrastinate, and ultimately surrender their opportunities. Fear is a filter. It ensures that only those committed to growth, vision, purpose continue forward. It is selective by design, favoring courage over convenience, commitment over comfort, and persistence over paralysis. Familiar territory requires creativity, problem solving, and innovation. Fear signals that your old strategies may not suffice, and this forces you to think differently. It invites you to explore alternative paths, discover hidden resources, and engage in deeper reflection. Fear catalyzes ingenuity. It transforms obstacles into opportunities and challenges into lessons. By interpreting fear as evidence of unfamiliar territory, you allow yourself to grow in ways that routine and comfort could never facilitate. Finally, fear is temporary. Its lessons are lasting. Every step taken in fear leaves behind resilience, confidence, and wisdom. You learn that the presence of fear does not determine outcome. You learn that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. You learn that unfamiliar territory is where purpose is often fulfilled, vision is expanded, and destiny is realized. Fear, when correctly interpreted, becomes the compass guiding you through uncharted spaces toward the life you were called to live. Fear is evidence of unfamiliar territory, not failure. It is not a condemnation. It is a confirmation. It is not a wall. It is a doorway. It is not a signal to retreat. It is a signal to proceed. When you understand this, you no longer see fear as an obstacle, but as a necessary companion on the road to greatness. You move forward step by step, even when the path is unknown, trusting that fear is the signpost pointing you toward your next level, your next assignment, and your next destiny. Originality creates legacy. Imitation creates limits. This is one of the most profound principles of achievement, purpose, and influence. To live a life of true significance, you cannot rely on copying what has already been done. Imitation may provide temporary recognition, cannot produce lasting impact. Originality, however, leaves footprints that time cannot erase. It is the difference between being remembered for courage and being remembered for convenience, between shaping history and following history, between fulfilling your calling and repeating someone else's. Originality begins in the mind. It is a refusal to be satisfied with the paths others have traveled. It is a willingness to think beyond the familiar, to ask questions that have never been asked, and to envision solutions that have never been implemented. Imitation, on the other hand, relies on answers that already exist, on methods that are proven, and on the safety of established norms. Imitation provides comfort, but at the expense of distinction. Originality demands risk, creativity, and the courage to be misunderstood. History is full of examples where originality changed the course of events. Those who dared to think differently were ridiculed, doubted, and even opposed at first. Every innovation, every movement, every breakthrough began as a radical idea, something unfamiliar, something uncomfortable. Originality often appears messy in its early stages because it does not fit into pre-existing structures. Imitation, however, fits neatly into what is already understood, and as such, it rarely creates waves, disruption, or transformation. Legacy is the natural result of originality. When you create something that has never been created before, you leave a mark that cannot be erased. Your work, your ideas, your influence transcend your time because it was not dependent on what others did, but on what you uniquely brought into the world. Legacy is built when people remember not just the product, but the principle behind it, the courage to innovate, the determination to persist, and the faith to trust one's vision even when it defies convention. Imitation, in contrast, limits potential. It confines your thinking, constrains your creativity, and diminishes your impact. When you imitate, you are confined to boundaries set by others. You may reach success in a limited sense. You will never reach greatness because greatness demands originality. Imitation fosters dependence on precedent. It trains the mind to react instead of create, to follow instead of lead. Those who imitate are safe in the short term, but insignificant in the long term. Originality requires self-awareness. It requires understanding your unique perspective, your distinctive gifts, and your personal calling. To create a legacy, you must know who you are and what you are capable of producing that no one else can. Imitation, by contrast, asks you to neglect this awareness, to ignore your individuality, and to measure your worth against others. Originality celebrates what is rare within you. Imitation hides it. Fear often tempts people into imitation. The unknown is intimidating, and it is safer to follow a proven path than to forge a new one. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of isolation. These are all reasons people choose imitation over originality. But fear is a temporary discomfort, while legacy is eternal. Choosing safety over authenticity may shield you from ridicule, but it will never earn you respect, admiration, or remembrance. Courage is the bridge between originality and legacy. Originality is also rooted in responsibility. When you create something new, you are accountable for its impact. You cannot blame predecessors or models for your outcomes. This responsibility forces discipline, focus, and excellence. Legacy requires intentionality. You cannot accidentally leave a mark. It requires deliberate effort, creative thinking, and consistency. Imitation, however, allows for excuses. If the plan fails, you can blame the method, the precedent, or the environment. Originality removes excuses and demands ownership. In relationships, originality produces influence. When you approach people with your authentic self, your unique perspective, and your distinctive approach, others are inspired to think differently and act differently. Imitation produces followers, but rarely leaders. Legacy is not just about what you build. It is about who you inspire. Originality challenges norm, provokes thought, and fosters progress. Imitation merely maintains the status quo. Originality also demands persistence. It is not enough to have a unique idea. You must develop it, refine it, and defend it in the face of resistance. People resist what is unfamiliar because they fear change. Originality is often lonely at first because the world is comfortable with imitation. Persistence ensures that your ideas are seen, your work is recognized, and your impact endures. Legacy is not immediate. It is cultivated through consistent originality over time. Imitation creates limits because it restricts growth. If you are only copying, you never fully engage your mind or your talents. Your potential is capped by the boundaries of someone else's vision. You will never discover the full scope of your creativity if you are only repeating what others have done. Originality, on the other hand, forces you to explore, innovate, and expand. It stretches your abilities, tests your patience, and strengthens your character. Growth and legacy are inseparable from originality. Originality is also transformative. It changes the way people think, act, and perceive reality. Leaves a lasting imprint not just in your immediate environment, but in the generations that follow. Imitation only perpetuates what already exists, does not create a new trajectory. To leave a legacy, you must introduce something that alters the course of events, something that inspires innovation, something that compels others to build upon your vision. The cost of originality is worth it. There will be critics, naysayers, those who do not understand your methods or motives. But legacy is never born in approval. It is born in courage. Those who imitate may be praised temporarily, but only those who innovate are remembered. Your life, your work, your influence have the potential to outlast trends, fads, and popular opinion. This is why originality creates legacy. It is timeless, bold, unparalleled. Ultimately, to leave a lasting mark, you must refuse imitation. You must cultivate the courage to trust your instincts, wisdom to develop your unique abilities, and the persistence to see your vision through despite resistance. Legacy is not a product of luck or timing. It is a result of intentional, original action. Every decision to remain authentic, every choice to innovate, every refusal to follow the crowd contributes to a legacy that will endure. Originality creates legacy. Imitation creates limits. The question is not whether you can follow someone else's path. The question is whether you will forge your own. The choice is not between ease and effort. It is between significance and mediocrity. Originality challenges, stretches, and sometimes isolates, but it also elevates, transforms, and immortalizes. Imitation comforts but confines. Choose to create, not replicate. Choose to innovate, not copy. Choose to leave a legacy, not limits. Resistance confirms divine direction. This is a truth that those who walk in purpose often discover, sometimes painfully, sometimes suddenly, always inevitably. When you feel opposition, obstacles, criticism, and challenges rising up around you, it is tempting to interpret these forces as signs that you are failing or that the road you are on is wrong. The world conditions us to believe that difficulty is failure, that pressure is punishment, and that pushback is a signal to retreat. But in the realm of destiny, the opposite is often true. Resistance is a confirmation that you are moving exactly where you are meant to go. The greater your assignment, greater the resistance. This is not coincidence. Anything of value, anything of lasting significance will disrupt the ordinary. When your calling begins to move beyond your comfort, resistance will appear to test your resolve, measure your faith, and define your persistence. Resistance is a marker. It shows that you are entering territory that matters, territory that carries weight, territory that will change lives. If your journey were easy, it would likely be ordinary, and ordinary does not leave a legacy. Resistance is never random. It is targeted. It arises precisely because you are stepping into alignment with your divine purpose. There are forces, both seen and unseen, that recognize the power of your assignment and attempt to delay, distract, or deter you. Sometimes resistance comes from people who cannot understand your vision. Sometimes it comes from circumstances that seem impossible to navigate. Sometimes it comes from within doubt, fear, and insecurity seeking to derail you. But all of this is confirmation what you are pursuing matters. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't provoke opposition. Resistance also reveals authenticity. When you feel opposition, it is often because you are not imitating someone else, not taking the easy path, not settling for what is conventional. You are doing something new, something bold, something transformative. The world resists originality because it fears disruption. Those who follow the crowd are seldom challenged. Those who lead, innovate, or pursue divine alignment always encounter pushback. Resistance, then, is a sign that you are genuine, that you are not settling. Your vision is bigger than convenience. There is a refinement process in resistance. It shapes character, builds resilience, and develops discernment. When you are challenged, you are forced to examine your motives, your methods, and your commitment. Weaknesses are exposed so that they can be strengthened. Gaps are revealed so that they can be filled. Resistance is not punishment, it is preparation. It separates those who are willing to endure from those who are willing to quit. It tests your determination and polishes your resolve. Those who persevere through resistance emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable than they were before the challenge appeared. Resistance also clarifies focus. In moments of opposition, distractions fall away. The noise of approval, the pressure of popularity, and the temptation of shortcuts diminish. Resistance forces you to look inward, to connect with your purpose, and to rely on guidance beyond the visible. It sharpens vision, compels you to align your actions with your calling rather than the expectations of others. Resistance keeps you on the path that matters rather than the path that is easy. Divine direction is often subtle and counterintuitive. It does not always feel like comfort, convenience, or consensus. It may feel uncomfortable, challenging, and even risky. Resistance is a natural response to that discomfort because the unfamiliar, the unprecedented, and the significant is always opposed. If you are walking a path of true calling, resistance is inevitable. It is a signal, not a deterrent. It says, this is the road that matters. Press forward. When you experience resistance, it is essential to maintain perspective. Resistance should not provoke panic, despair, or retreat. Instead, it should provoke prayer, reflection, and action. Resistance is a mirror showing you areas where faith, courage, or preparation may need strengthening. It is also a compass pointing toward the direction where your impact will be greatest. Those who interpret resistance correctly use it as guidance rather than as a reason to stop. Resistance also builds authority. Leaders, innovators, those with vision gain influence through endurance. The more you navigate opposition while maintaining integrity, the more credibility you earn. Resistance tests character, and character commands respect. Those who falter in the face of resistance may achieve temporary gains, but those who persist establish foundations that cannot be shaken. Resistance confirms divine direction by distinguishing those who are called from those who are curious. Resistance teaches patience. It reminds you that progress is rarely linear and that results are not always immediate. Divine assignments unfold in seasons. Obstacles are part of the timing process. Pressure slows down what is premature but propels forward what is ready. Those who persist in resistance learn that timing and preparation are as crucial as action. Resistance is a teacher that teaches endurance, perseverance, and trust in process. Resistance also inspires creativity. When the obvious path is blocked, innovation becomes necessary. When the usual methods fail, new solutions emerge. When opposition arises, problem-solving skills develop. Divine direction often comes with challenges precisely because it requires the full expression of your talents, wisdom, and resourcefulness. Resistance forces you to adapt, to think strategically, and to act with purpose. In addition, resistance strengthens faith, teaches reliance on more than human understanding or approval. When the path is smooth, it is easy to rely on what is visible. When opposition arises, faith must take precedence. Faith allows you to move forward despite uncertainty, to act despite doubt, and to trust beyond your current comprehension. Resistance is confirmation that faith is necessary because nothing of true value ever comes without trust in the unseen. Resistance confirms divine direction because it validates that your assignment is real, meaningful, and significant. It is not a barrier, it is a checkpoint. It is not a threat, it is a confirmation. It is not a punishment, it is proof that the work you are doing has purpose. Those who interpret resistance as failure miss the signal entirely. Those who embrace resistance as confirmation recognize that opposition is a natural companion to destiny. The ultimate lesson of resistance is that progress and opposition coexist. Resistance is not evidence that you are going the wrong way. It is evidence that you are going the right way. Every visionary, every pioneer, every leader who achieved greatness faced resistance. Their accomplishments were not in the absence of challenges, but in their response to them. Resistance is proof that your calling is too important to be ignored and that your actions matter more than you realize. Divine direction is never accidental. Assignments that matter provoke opposition because significance disrupts mediocrity. Resistance is the signature of destiny. It confirms that your work is aligned with a higher purpose, that your calling is authentic, and that your influence will extend beyond the immediate moment. Road may be difficult, the path may be lonely, and the obstacles may be daunting, but resistance proves that you are on the road that matters most. Persevere, stand firm, keep moving. Let resistance be your compass rather than your cage. Let it strengthen rather than discourage. Let it refine rather than redefine. Every challenge you overcome, every opposition you endure, and every obstacle you navigate is confirmation that divine direction is guiding your steps. Resistance is not the absence of favor. It is the presence of destiny. And it confirms that the work you are doing is exactly where it is supposed to be. Resistance confirms divine direction. Embrace it, trust it, and move through it. It is not a roadblock, it is a signpost. It is not punishment, it is preparation. It is not a reason to quit. It is proof that your assignment is real, necessary, and divinely guided. Loneliness often accompanies rare callings. It is one of the most misunderstood aspects of purpose. People see success, vision, and achievement as glamorous, exciting, or enviable, but they rarely see the quiet moments that precede greatness, the hours of solitude, the silence of preparation, and the absence of approval. Rare callings are called rare because they are not meant for everyone. They require focus, commitment, and sacrifice, and in that process, the world around you may not understand, support, or even recognize the weight of what you are carrying. Loneliness is not a punishment. It is a signal that you are walking a path that few are willing to take. A rare calling is unique. It is specific to your gifts, your experiences, your vision. Because it is unique, few people can fully relate to it. Friends may encourage you, family may advise you, colleagues may question you. But the depth of your assignment is something only you can experience. The loneliness that comes with rare callings is not the absence of connection, but the absence of shared vision. Others may cheer you on from the sidelines, but they cannot carry the burden for you. You must walk the road alone before others can follow. Loneliness is also a test of commitment. Measures your willingness to pursue purpose even when external validation is absent. Rare callings do not come with immediate applause or recognition. In fact, the initial stages are often marked by misunderstanding, doubt, and even criticism. If you quit when the crowd does not understand, you will never fulfill the calling. Loneliness separates those who are willing to endure from those who seek only comfort, reveals whether your pursuit is motivated by external approval or internal conviction. There is a refining power in loneliness. When you are alone with your calling, you are forced to confront your weaknesses, doubts, and fears. You are required to develop resilience, self-discipline, clarity of purpose. The quiet moments of reflection, the hours spent in preparation, and the nights of prayer or contemplation all shape character. Those who embrace solitude discover strength they never knew existed. Loneliness becomes a crucible in which the fullness of their calling is forged. Rare callings also attract scrutiny. People fear what they cannot understand. They are often suspicious of visionaries because vision challenges the status quo. The more unusual your assignment, the more resistance you will face, not only externally, but internally as well. Loneliness accompanies rare callings because you are operating in a space that few have navigated. Your ideas may seem unconventional, your strategies untested, your goals extraordinary. It is natural for isolation to occur when your path diverges from the familiar. Loneliness demands reliance on your inner guidance, and for those who are spiritual, reliance on a higher power. When no one else can understand your purpose, you must trust your own insight, intuition, and direction. Rare callings cannot be fulfilled by consensus. They cannot be measured by majority opinion or shaped by popular expectation. The road of a unique assignment is often lonely because it requires absolute fidelity to the vision within you. External voices may distract or discourage. Internal conviction must carry you forward. This solitude is not a permanent state. It is a season. Rare callings often begin in isolation because preparation must precede public recognition. The initial stages of any meaningful endeavor require focus, discipline, and an environment free from unnecessary influence. If everyone were around to approve, advise, or accompany you, you might be swayed from the exact path necessary for impact. Loneliness is a protective space that allows vision to develop, skills to sharpen, character to mature. Loneliness also cultivates independence. When you cannot rely on others to understand your journey, you learn to make decisions with clarity, confidence, and courage. Rare callings do not thrive in dependence on external validation. They thrive in the hands of those who are willing to act even when support is absent. This independence becomes essential because once the calling begins to manifest publicly, there will be scrutiny, opposition, and expectation. Those who have embraced loneliness are equipped to withstand criticism and continue forward. Rare callings are often misunderstood precisely because they defy common patterns. People are accustomed to imitation, repetition, and conventional measures of success. When someone steps outside of those boundaries, it can feel threatening, strange, or uncomfortable to the majority. Loneliness is a natural byproduct of breaking molds, defying norms, and stepping into territory that has not yet been claimed. It is a reminder that your path is not ordinary and that ordinary people cannot fully accompany extraordinary vision. There is also a deep spiritual or internal dimension to the loneliness that accompanies rare callings. It is in these moments of solitude that clarity emerges, insights are received, and purposes affirmed. The absence of noise allows your own voice, your inner calling, guiding principles to rise above the distractions of the world. Loneliness becomes an incubator for innovation, wisdom, and creativity. Without it, many rare callings would be diluted, delayed, or diverted. Those who embrace loneliness often emerge with an unshakable sense of identity. They discover who they are beyond the expectations of others, beyond the pressure to conform, and beyond the influence of approval or criticism. Rare callings require authenticity, and authenticity flourishes in the quiet spaces where no one else's agenda dominates. It is in these spaces that your values, your priorities, and your vision are clarified. Loneliness, therefore, is not emptiness. It is the fertile soil in which purpose grows. Finally, loneliness teaches patience and perseverance. Rare callings are rarely instantaneous. They often require preparation, incremental growth, and endurance. When no one is watching, it is tempting to give up, to settle for comfort, to conform to easier paths. Loneliness forces you to persist when the reward is unseen, the audience is absent, and the progress feels slow. It strengthens resilience, fortifies character, and ensures that when the calling comes to fruition, you are fully equipped to steward it with wisdom and excellence. Loneliness often accompanies rare callings because purpose is rare. It is not for the complacent, the comfortable, or the easily swayed. It is for those willing to walk alone, to think differently, and to act faithfully even when no one else understands. The solitude you experience is a sign of alignment, a preparation for impact, and a crucible for growth. It is the space where vision is sharpened, Character is strengthened and destiny is clarified. Those who endure the loneliness of rare callings emerge with insight, courage, and influence. They are no longer dependent on external validation. They carry authority forged in solitude. They navigate opposition with resilience and pursue purpose with clarity. The path may be lonely, but it is necessary and it is sacred. Loneliness is not the absence of company. It is the presence of purpose. Those who embrace it understand that it is the price of significance, preparation for legacy, and the companion of extraordinary achievement. Rare callings are never ordinary, and ordinary accompaniment is never sufficient. Your solitude is the evidence that you are walking the road few are willing to tread, and it is the foundation upon which your influence, impact, and legacy will be built. Small beginnings precede historic outcomes. This is a principle that has been proven across time in every arena of life, whether in business, leadership, art, innovation, or spiritual endeavors. Great achievements, monumental breakthroughs, lasting legacies rarely begin with grandeur. They begin in small, almost unnoticed ways, quiet decisions, modest actions, subtle shifts, simple commitments. The temptation is to despise beginnings because they feel insignificant, because the work is slow, because the results are not yet visible. Yet it is precisely in these small beginnings that the foundation of greatness is laid. Small beginnings teach patience. In a world that values instant gratification, it is easy to overlook the importance of starting small. People want results yesterday, recognition immediately, and impact now. But historic outcomes are not produced overnight. They are cultivated gradually, day by day, decision by decision, effort by effort. Every great achievement begins with a single step, a single idea, a single act of courage, or a single moment of obedience. Small beginnings are the training ground for endurance. They develop persistence, resilience, and discipline, which are all essential ingredients for achieving extraordinary results. Small beginnings build character. When you start small, you are forced to do the work without the validation of the crowd. You must rely on your own integrity, your own vision, your own capacity to keep moving forward. There are no applause, no immediate recognition, and no shortcuts. The discipline required to maintain faithfulness in small beginnings strengthens your resolve, clarifies your priorities, and refines your focus. It is in the unglamorous, unnoticed moments that your foundation for greatness is constructed. Small beginnings foster humility. They remind you that greatness is not a product of pride, ego, or shortcuts. Those who begin with grandeur, expecting immediate results, often fall because they have not developed the patience, the wisdom, or the humility necessary to steward the opportunities they are given. Small beginnings humble you, teaching you to respect the process, to honor incremental progress, and to value preparation. Humility cultivated in the small beginnings ensures that when historic outcomes arrive, you are ready to manage them with wisdom and integrity. Small beginnings develop creativity and problem-solving skills. When resources are limited, when the stakes are low, and when the world is not watching, innovation is born. Great ideas are often tested in small spaces first. In these spaces, you are allowed to experiment, to learn from mistakes, and to adjust your strategy. These early trials, though small, prepare you to handle complexity when the opportunity scales. The small beginnings are laboratories in which your vision is refined, your strategy is sharpened, and your execution is strengthened. Small beginnings test commitment. It is easy to commit to a grand vision when success appears certain. It is easy to follow a path that seems well lit, popular, validated by others. But true commitment is tested when results are minimal, when progress is slow, when sacrifices feel disproportionate to the reward. Those who endure small beginnings demonstrate their willingness to invest in the long vision, knowing that historic outcomes require faithfulness over time. Small beginnings measure your dedication, your patience, and your willingness to see beyond the present moment. Small beginnings also teach perspective. When you start small, every milestone, every improvement, and every step forward becomes visible. You learn to appreciate progress, to celebrate effort, to understand the incremental nature of success. This perspective prevents discouragement and nurtures resilience. It allows you to see the significance of your current efforts, even when the ultimate outcome is not yet visible. Small beginnings teach you that every moment matters, that every choice has weight and that every small action contributes to the eventual historic outcome. Small beginnings provide the opportunity to build supportive networks. In the early stages of any endeavor, relationships are tested and forged. Mentors, collaborators, and partners often appear during these formative periods. Small beginnings allow you to cultivate trust, loyalty, shared vision with those who will support and accompany you on the journey to historic outcomes. These relationships, formed in modest circumstances, become the pillars of strength when your work expands and challenges increase. Small beginnings encourage gratitude. When you start modestly, you learn to value each step, each lesson, and each small victory. Gratitude nurtures perspective and resilience, reminding you that progress, no matter how incremental, is meaningful. When historic outcomes finally arrive, the appreciation for the journey enhances the fulfillment of the achievement. Those who begin with grandeur often overlook the lessons along the way, and when success comes, they may not fully grasp its significance. Small beginnings cultivate a heart that treasures both the process and the result. Small beginnings challenge the illusion of overnight success. No great leader, innovator, or visionary achieve monumental outcomes without first navigating the humble stages of preparation, learning, and refinement. Every historic achievement begins with a seed, often planted in obscurity, nurtured with discipline, and watered with persistence. Small beginnings demonstrate that greatness is not a random stroke of luck, but a deliberate, patient, and consistent effort over time. They reveal the invisible work behind visible success. Small beginnings demand courage. Starting small often feels risky, even when it seems insignificant. You may feel overlooked, underestimated, or discouraged by the lack of immediate recognition. Yet courage is not the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of it. Taking the first step, making the first investment, or pursuing the first idea is an act of courage. It signals a willingness to risk the known for the potential of the unknown. These acts, though small, lay the groundwork for monumental achievements that will be remembered long after initial doubts are forgotten. Small beginnings cultivate vision. When you start small, you are forced to focus on the essentials, to define your purpose clearly, and to prioritize effectively. Can't afford distractions or frivolous detours. Every decision matters. Every action is significant. Small beginnings sharpen your vision, clarify your goals, and train your mind to discern what truly matters. By the time historic outcomes are realized, clarity gained from small beginnings ensures that you are prepared to recognize, steward, and expand your achievements. Finally, small beginnings remind us that nothing significant emerges fully formed. Great outcomes, monumental legacies, and historic achievements all require time, effort, persistence. They require dedication to the process, faithfulness to the vision, and patience with the journey. The small steps you take today, though they may feel ordinary, are the building blocks of extraordinary outcomes. Each small beginning, each modest effort, each quiet action contributes to a chain reaction that, over time, produces results beyond what you can currently imagine. Small beginnings precede historic outcomes because every monumental achievement has humble roots. The quiet, unseen, often uncelebrated actions of today prepare you for the grandeur of tomorrow. Small beginnings teach patience, build character, develop creativity, test commitment, and cultivate vision. They prepare the heart, the mind, and the spirit to steward opportunities when they arrive. They provide the foundation upon which greatness is constructed. If you honor the small beginnings, persist through the unnoticed efforts, and remain faithful to the incremental steps, you will one day look back and see that what once seemed insignificant has produced outcomes that are historic, transformative, and unforgettable. The journey may feel slow, the work may feel small, but it is precisely in these beginnings that destiny is born. You were created to interrupt history, not repeat it. This truth stands at the center of purpose and destiny. You were not born merely to exist within patterns handed down to you, nor to recycle stories that have already been told. You carry within the capacity to disrupt cycles, challenge assumptions, and reshape outcomes. History repeats itself when people are content to live on autopilot, following inherited mindsets, behaviors, and limitations. But interruption begins when someone decides that what has always been is not what must always be. Repeating history is easy. It requires little thought, little courage, and little resistance. You simply inherit habits, beliefs, and systems without questioning their relevance or their cost. Generational patterns of fear, scarcity, complacency, or defeat continue because no one interrupts them. Interruption, however, requires awareness, demands that you see the pattern, name it, and choose to step beyond it. You were not created to be a continuation of limitation. You were created to be a turning point. History is shaped by those who refuse to accept inevitability. The greatest shifts in families, communities, nations, and cultures began when someone dared to say, "This ends with me," or "This begins with me." Interrupting history is not about rebellion for its own sake. It is about responsibility. It is recognizing that you have been positioned in time, place, and circumstance not by accident, but by assignment. Your life is meant to introduce a new direction, a new possibility, a new standard. To interrupt history, you must first recognize the narratives that surround you. There are stories that say people like you do not succeed, that backgrounds like yours cannot produce greatness, that circumstances like yours determine your ceiling. These narratives are powerful because they are repeated, normalized, and rarely challenged. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates acceptance. Destiny is not found in what is familiar. It is found in what is intentional. Interruption begins when you stop believing the stories that limit you and start living a story that liberates you. Interrupting history requires courage because it often places you at odds with expectations. When you choose a different path, people may resist, misunderstand, or even oppose you. Not everyone benefits from change. Some are comfortable with the old patterns, even if those patterns are destructive. When you interrupt history, you expose the possibility of transformation, and that can be unsettling. Resistance is not proof that you are wrong. It is often proof that you are disrupting something deeply entrenched. You were created to interrupt cycles of fear with faith, cycles of silence with truth, cycles of passivity with action. You were designed to break patterns of mediocrity by introducing excellence, to break patterns of despair by introducing hope, to break patterns of limitation by introducing vision. This does not happen by accident. It happens when you make deliberate choices day after day to live differently than what you inherited. Repeating history keeps you comfortable, but it keeps the future unchanged. Interrupting history stretches you, challenges you, and sometimes isolates you, but it also creates new possibilities for those who come after you. Your interruption is not just about you. It is about the generations connected to your obedience. When you change the pattern, you alter the trajectory. When you interrupt history, you make room for a future that could not exist otherwise. Interruption begins internally before it becomes external. You cannot interrupt history around you until you confront history within you. Mindsets, habits, fears, and assumptions formed by past experiences must be examined and, when necessary, released. This internal work is often unseen and uncelebrated. It is essential. External change without internal transformation is temporary. True interruption starts when your thinking evolves, when your beliefs align with possibility rather than limitation. You were not created to repeat someone else's life. Comparison is one of the most subtle ways history repeats itself. When you measure your progress, your calling, or your value against someone else's path, you abandon your unique assignment. Interruption requires originality. It requires you to trust your vision. Even when it does not resemble what has been done before, you cannot interrupt history by copying it. Interrupting history also requires perseverance. Patterns do not break easily. Systems resist change. Old cycles try to reassert themselves, especially when progress feels slow or costly. There will be moments when repeating history seems easier than interrupting it. In those moments, perseverance becomes your greatest asset. Each decision to persist weakens the old pattern and strengthens the new path you are creating. Your interruption may begin small. It may start with a single decision, a single boundary, or a single act of courage. Do not despise these small beginnings. Every major shift starts quietly before it becomes visible. History does not change in a moment. It changes through consistent, courageous action over time. Your faithfulness in small choices creates momentum that eventually becomes transformation. You were created to interrupt history because you carry something new. New perspective, new insight, new compassion, new discipline, new creativity. The world does not need another repetition of what has already failed. It needs interruption. It needs people willing to challenge norms, reimagine systems, and build futures that are more hopeful, more aligned with purpose. When you interrupt history, you become a reference point. Others begin to say, it changed when you arrived, or it was different after you decided. Your life becomes evidence that transformation is possible. You do not just talk about change, you embody it. This is how legacy is formed, not by repeating what was, but by initiating what can be. You were not created to be a footnote in history. You were created to be a turning point. Your presence is meant to shift direction, not maintain momentum toward limitation. Your choices matter more than you realize. Each act of courage, each refusal to conform, each step toward purpose adds to the interruption you are creating. History repeats when people are passive. History is interrupted when people are purposeful. You were created with intention, positioned with precision, and equipped with everything necessary to change the story. The patterns you break, the cycles you end, and the futures you open will outlast you. You were created to interrupt history, not repeat it. Step into that responsibility with courage. Walk in it with conviction. Live in it with consistency. Story does not have to continue as it has. It can change with you.